Okay, so today, that is way in my face. Today I want to build a code sandbox for this particular thing, or rather something similar to this that uses the same technique but is easier to explain in a workshop format. The problem is that I don't really... Okay, that works. So I don't really have a great idea right now for what I want the example to be, which means I have to come up with something. And I'm kind of leaning towards just making it the same thing but simplified. So like maybe a simple version of this same concept, or building something completely different, but I don't have a good idea. So if you are on the stream and you have a great idea for what we could animate or make a transition for, I am all for it. In the meantime, I'm going to start setting up a code sandbox and then hopefully get an idea while I'm doing that. So we're going to create a React sandbox and add a D3 dependency. Hey Carlos, how are you doing? And hi Fuzzy Buddy as well. So we got the code sandbox. We're going to change this to what should we call it? Hybrid, blah, 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 blah. Hybrid animation example. Okay, and we say combining game loops and D3 transitions for real neat stuff. And I'm gonna add an emoji because I like those. Cool. We're gonna add an SVG that is nice and big so that it's easier for us to use. And here we're going to add just like an animated example. I'm just gonna call it animated example because I don't have a better idea right now. Animated example. And we're going to import that. Import animated example from /animated example, and we create a new file called animatedexample.js. And you know what, considering I was already using the donut chart that becomes a bar chart example, I'm just gonna keep, yeah, let's do that same thing. So we're gonna call this a donut bar chart like that, and rename this file to donutbarchart.js. And we're going to start with import React from React and import asterisk as D3 from D3 so that we don't have any problems with that stuff, and export default donut bar chart like that. And we say, I think this needs to be a class-based component just because that's going to make it easier to make sure we can do stuff. Extends react.component, and the render method, oh yeah, because we're going to need state. Or should we do it with hooks? No, not with hooks here. Oh shit, I totally wanted to add a hooks section to this thing. Okay, so I'm gonna have to add that as well. So hooks, add hooks example /section, which means in this part, because this is towards the end of the whole workshop, we can use hooks, so we're gonna do it with hooks. Cool. That makes everything even easier. So we say const donut bar chart is a method that does stuff, and for starters it's going to return a graph. What's it called? G with a transform that says translate $x and $y. Cool. So So we start with that, we get x and y from props, and we pass them in, and we say x is, let's say, 400 and y is 200, so that it's somewhere in the middle of the screen. Let's give ourselves some more space, and we're gonna start with rendering it as a donut chart. So how do you build a donut chart? We are going to need, let's see, blah, and then it's going to go through every data point. Yes, so we're going to build a pie map. Yes, pie map that's gonna get data, and it's going to render an arc for every data point, right? Yes. So pie map arc data, and we're going to pass in data as arc data. That's going to be our arc, which means we then have to create a pie as d3 pie. Have I ever considered going into a manager role? I've considered it, but honestly I don't think I would enjoy something like that, and I really like coding, so I think I'm gonna try to stick to coding for as long as I can. Now I'm going to look up the D3 documentation for pie charts, because I always forget how to make those, and I like to admit that I forget how to do these things, because it's important to feel comfortable about looking up things in documentation, because as an engineer you can't really keep everything in mind. Okay, so you get the data, and that's about it. Cool. So d3 pie of our data. Are you working or working from home? Both, kinda. So that's our data, and we're going to say, oh, that's the problem with this one. It needs trigonometry, and trigonometry is hard. It's especially hard to have trigonometry in okay, we'll get to that point. So let's just start with d3 pie, and we're going to create, wow, why is it doing that? So d3.py data, we go through the pie and we create arcs. So const each arc is going to get data, and it will render. What do they render? They're going to render paths, where, so return a path with d is arc of data. And that should technically work. And let's create an arc equals d3.arc. No, we don't want that. And again, this is going to start as just a normal thing, right? Does it need a radius? Pi value, pi sort value, start angle, end angle. And for the arc, we're going to need, I think, we just need inner radius, outer radius. Okay, we need the radiuses. So we're going to say inner radius is, let's say, 50, and outer radius is 100. Now we need to feed data into our chart. So we're going to say data equals random data. And we're going to create random data as random data equals, how many data points do we want? Let's say new array 10 data points, map, we don't need it, and we say math.random value. Let's see if that renders. Are we getting errors? We are getting errors, so let's try reloading that just to see what it says. Wonderful. Could not find module in path. Yes. So donut bar chart. So I'm now trying to just make a donut chart appear. Pi.map is not a function. Why? What does pi create? Console log of pi. Yeah, thanks Harsha. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that one. Reload. What does pi return? What? Pi of data. Oh, okay. That's what I did wrong. There we go. Now it's going to work. Okay, so I think it's just invisible right now. Each child should have a unique. Okay, so we're going to say d3 pi, and then here we're going to say pi of data dot map arg data. And let's make sure that they are not just being invisible. SVG, we are transforming that, and then all of these guys. Awesome. So all of these are returning pretty much the same info. So let's figure out what we're getting in our data. Console log of data. Data undefined, index 7, value none. Start angle 0 and angle 0. Okay. That's why it's not working. So let's make sure that what are we getting from our data up here? Console log data. So data. Aha. Okay, so data is all empty. That's why that is not working. How do we create an array with values? JavaScript create array with values. Hacks for creating JavaScript arrays. Awesome. Oh, there's .fill. I always forget about that one. Let's see. Fill 024. So 10 fill with 0 and then map. Will that work? Aha. Okay. So we got that. Now we need to give them some color. Keyboard is this one. So this is a truly ergonomic keyboard, and I need to replace it, but I'm afraid it looks like they've gone out of business or something, because they're not replying to support requests, and they're supposedly making a new model that they haven't released for over a year, and there's no activity on their Twitter or anything like that. Okay, so now let's give these guys some color. So we're going to say style fill is based on should we call this arg data? No, let's keep it that way. So fill is going to be based on the index. So I think D3 comes with a color scale, color schemes. So we're going to use scheme category 10. That makes sense. Or scheme paired. That one is nice. That one looks nice. So we're going to say D3 scheme paired of data.index. No? What about like this? There we go. Okay. So we got... Okay, so there's a weird illusion going on here, because it looks like this is being weird, but I'm pretty sure it's all nicely centered and everything. Cool. So we got that. Now we're going to make a transition that lets us transition. What did you do? Okay. So now I'm going to make it so that when I click on this, it transforms and opens up, and that's going to work as our example for what's going on. or just for using these advanced animations. So let's see, how would I make that work? Pi data map arc data. Now here on click equals start transition, right? So const start transition is a function that does what? Console log blah. Let's just make sure the detecting a click works. No. Ah, there we go. Oh, okay, so it does work, it's just a little wonky. So I'm going to now make it so that the radiuses are controlled by state. So we're gonna say const r and set r equals use state, and it starts with 50, like that. And here we're going to say set r is going to be, I think, needs to be 10,000. Student hubs that you could share your website on. Sorry, I don't know that. It's been a long time since I tried being on a student hub or anything like that. So the radius is going to go in as, let's say, radius r, or actually let's just call it r, and this is getting the radius r, and this is going to be r plus 50. So let's see what happens. Aha. So here what happened was that it's now way up above, so we need to move x minus radius. So let's see. Okay, and this needs to be y plus radius. No. Okay, let's try setting it to 100 first. Aha. So this needs to be also minus radius. No. So y plus radius, and x needs to stay the same. So that worked. Now let's try setting it to 300. Okay, so we can now start with 500. Okay, see, so you see how it's getting stretched. So at 1000 it's almost flat, at 5000, 8000, 9000, and at 10,000 it's pretty flat, right? Except now the problem is that it's way stretched out, and we're gonna solve that next. Hey, Eri Frank Nunez, how are you doing today? So Fuzzy Buddy asks how long my marathon was, and I'm not sure if you're asking about distance or time, but in terms of distance, it was 42.2 kilometers or 26.2 miles, and in terms of time, it took me just under 3.5 hours, which is a pretty good time. Okay, so we have that. Now, what's the next one? Now we need to make sure that start and end angle for our pi are based on the radius. And rather than try to recalculate that, I'm going to steal it from my freelance project where I already solved this problem. So source, let's just open it and look it up. Where is it? So industry comparisons, no, it would be in the donut chart. React, now let's find this code. Where is my start and end angle? Aha. Okay, so so alpha is math asyn minus blah. Let's say we want it to be, how wide do we want the thing to be? let's say width equals 200 pixels. So width 2 times radius, and then we calculate start angle as this stuff. And where do I get the angle divisor? 2 times maths blah. Then we set the start angle and the end angle. And where do I get the angle divisor? Angle divisor starts as 1. So we say const angle divisor equals 1, and I'm not sure anymore what that's about. Hey, thanks. I'm happy you like it. So now if we set this back to 50, okay, maybe not, maybe 100. Okay. Oh, right. So 200. Okay, 100. Now the problem is that because of the way this stuff works, am I changing the angle divisor here? Oh, because the angle divisor is okay, I don't need that. So start angle is minus alpha and end angle is alpha. That's the cross section of our thing. 80. No, 90. Okay, so the smallest one is 100. That's interesting to know. And then when I click on it, okay, now we need to set R to 10,000, and the next one is going to be, we're going to transition that. So if I click on it, now it's flat. Perfect. And we need to give each of them a key. So we're going to say argdata.index is the where did I go? Argdata.index is the key, and let's bring it a little bit higher up. So y100. Okay, so we now have the basics. When you click on it, it jumps up to being flat, and otherwise it's almost fully round. What if I don't do with -10? Okay, perfect. So that works now. We have we know the width of the section that we want, and that's that. Now for the start transition, we're going to, how did we say this works? So we're going to say D3 selection, and then we start a transition that's just called donut to flat, right? Because every transition needs to have a name without, okay, I'm going to copy this like this, and we're going to say the duration is 8,000, and we're going to tween the radius, which is going to look like this. So const radius equals D3 interpolate from the current radius to, we set 10,000, and then we return t. Wow, this is going to be so hard to explain. And we set r as radius of t. Now let's see what happens. Nice. Okay, that worked. So in the end, I'm basically gonna ask if I had time to learn Kotlin. Yes and no. The answer is that I'm still working on learning Kotlin, and I've just had other projects at work that I had to work on that were more important. but I have been learning Kotlin and I'm still working on it, and I'm slowly getting better at it. Okay, so this looks like it works now. The next one, so we have a start transition here. Now, what do I do to let's see. I'm trying to think of how to make it so that when we click on it, it goes back. So let's see here. Oh, okay. Const target r equals 10,000, and we here say target r. So now when I click on it, it goes to again to 10,000, which is almost completely flat, but not quite. Maybe if we go to 15,000, it's going to be flatterer. Yep, that's flatter. And yes, Kotlin is a lot different than Java. Now, let's see what happens if we say r, if r is smaller than 15,000. So I'm trying to think of a good way to know when to transition back or out. Ah, I know. We're going to say const small set round, const round, and set round equals use state, which starts as true. And here we're going to say if it's currently round, then our goal transition is 15,000, and we otherwise our goal radius is 100, and when it ends we say, okay, so on end we say set round is the opposite of current round. So if we click on this, it goes out, and when we click on it again, it doesn't do anything. Right. What if we immediately set it? Okay, so that's a problem. Now it's letting us stop it, but it's not letting us do the thing. So console log target r and whether we're currently round. Like that. So aha. Oh, okay. So it does start going back down. Cool. And let's set it to 11,000 because I think that's going to be a little easier. So tap stops and then eventually starts going back down. So I think what we need to do there is make sure to cancel the current transition. Let me check how we can do that. Transitions. Selection, there we go. Interrupt. Okay, so we're going to always interrupt the transition. So dot interrupt donut to flat, like that. Come on, go away. So if I click that, Okay, so it seems like it should be, it's kind of working. I'm just not sure why it takes so long. Okay, I guess we don't need the interrupt, but this will be good enough as an example for how this stuff works. So this is going to be my solution. I'm going to give this a name as hybrid animation solution. Great. Now what do I do next? The next what I need is something here is going to be an example for people. So I think I'm just gonna make them do this. I've noticed in terms of workshops that the more working code you provide and the less you ask, the more you make it so that workshop participants are just solving a small particular part of the thing, the better it is. So here I'm going to, this is going to be the unsolved part, and everything else is going to be just something I explain to people. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That way we can move relatively quickly. Let's go donut bar chart. I'm going to, how do I fork it? Fork, hybrid animation, unsolved, there, and we're going to say implement your transition with a custom tween that drives state and triggers re-renders. Custom tween that drives state and triggers re-renders. Awesome. Cool. Now the next step is going to be adding this to my workshop. But let's see, how long have I been streaming? 30 minutes, that should be fine. Alright, so I'm going to, because I'm going to be doing writing now, and I find it difficult to live code and write at the same time, and it seems like this, anyway, I find it difficult to write and code at the same time, so I'm going to stop live streaming now, and I will be back tomorrow evening with some new stuff working on the other workshop. So thanks everyone for watching, thanks for coming and saying hi, and I will see you again tomorrow.